Now, 1 in 3 employers in Singapore are using temporary workers for specialised short-term tasks and seasonal jobs. A new survey by ManpowerGroup, a workforce solutions firm, found that businesses are utilising these flexible workforce strategies amid a cooling job market and continued global trade uncertainty. Now, for more analysis, we're joined by Joyce Bijl, who is a Business Development Director of Asia Pacific and Middle East at ManpowerGroup. Joyce, thanks for joining us today. Now, which sectors are increasingly relying on flexible talent, and what trends are you observing in these areas?
Well, first of all, Angela, thank you for having me tonight. So if we look into the data of our Q4 ManpowerGroup Employment Outlook Survey, basically across all employers, it's very likely that they tap into more contract hires, temporary staffs for seasonal support. But if we look into sectors that are upticking, it's definitely communication, healthcare, IT, industrial, where you see they're turning into temporary hires, especially to handle the seasonal demand or potential project spikes. For example, in the communication services, 4 out of 10 employees are using flexible workers. Equally, we also see the same story in energy, IT, healthcare, where they turn to short-term specialized roles for contract staffs. So I think it's clear more businesses are seeing flexible talent as a go-to solution and not just as a backup.
So how do these companies then determine which roles to fill with flexible workers versus staying with their permanent employees?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and we can define that in 4 categories, if I may, where obviously critical roles like leadership, core operation, they stay permanent, generally speaking. But then we have the specialist or project-based roles, and we see that a lot with, for example, tech consultants, creative in the communication industry. They are much more flexed, and especially where the demand for niche skills is high, we see that this is still playing a big part. And then the other one that I quickly briefed already on earlier is the jobs with seasonal spikes. And we see that a lot in the logistic and customer support roles because they are perfect for basically temp hires. And then, of course, there's also the part on talent availability. When certain skills are difficult to find or costly to hire, we also see that companies go for outsourcing or gig platforms, freelance arrangements, etc. So basically, in short, I would say if a role needs stability, it stays as perm. If it's more project-based, it's flexed. And that's how you create basically a balance between agility and stability.
Now, Joyce, the survey also revealed that attracting qualified candidates is the top challenge for 50% or half of the employers surveyed. Why is that? And how do these flexible strategies then help them to stay competitive?
Well, I think there are different flexible workforce strategies to start with. Adopting a blended workforce model that actually combines permanent staffing with contractors helps business to move faster and stay agile as well. But equally, implementing flexible workforce arrangements enables business to attract wider talent. And I think here it's also important to not confuse between strategy and arrangement, although we see that they often blur, of course, as well. Bringing freelancers or contractors means companies can potentially tap on niche skills without long hiring cycles. Offering remote or part-time work pulls in people who might not want a traditional 9-to-5 job, like retired people, caregivers, for example. And I think it's also good for your branding. Companies seen as flexible come across as more modern and a people-first organization. And apart from tapping on temporary workers, we can also look into other flexible workforce strategies like outsourcing and managed service. And then another important point here is what does the data show, right? Companies focusing on work-life balance and flexibility, they're doing better at keeping and attracting talent. And that's important because around 83% of Singapore employers, they find it, as you mentioned, difficult to find the talent they need. So flexibility becomes here, I would say, a strategic advantage.
Right. Now, Joyce, before we go, is the rising demand then for flexible work driven by what the job seekers want? Are the workers also seeking more project-based or more non-permanent roles as well?
I would say yes. People want to be autonomous, more balanced. I think it's not only about job security anymore. We have another study that we have done on talent shortage. And there as well, 82% of Singaporeans, they say that flexibility like fair hours, benefits are part of meaningful work. So I would say it's not just about convenience, it's how people define purpose these days. And then freelance and contract work gives people more control over their time and the kind of work they do. And many these days, and I think especially when we look in the younger generation, that is really important for them.
Right. Joyce, thank you so much for breaking all of that down for us. That was Joyce Bijl, Business Development Director of Asia Pacific and Middle East at ManpowerGroup.